All right, so I wanted to take a quick look at the Behringer TD3 or Roland 303 or whichever clone you have of the original Roland sequencer section. Now, I am not an expert on this. I've only had it for a few days, but the first thing I was trying to figure out is what do all these symbols mean? How do I get notes into this thing? And most of the videos I found people kind of put things in randomly and then, oh, happy accident, great. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I still couldn't understand. I have to get my head around things. And if you're like me, you need to kind of know what's underneath. How's this actually working? The random stuff is cool, but I just wanted to figure out how it's working. And I think I've got it figured out. So this probably is the worst sequencer in history of music making machines. It's counterintuitive. There's so many different steps you have to do. You can't really see where you are. You kind of have to count and remember. And wow. Anyways, I think I have it figured out, and I think I can pass on some simple steps if you're just getting into this and not quite knowing where the heck you're at. So basically, forget about looking at this in terms of the sequencer. The sequencer is kind of hidden underneath. It's a 16-step sequencer, which means that it's 16 beats or, well, 16th notes, which makes up a bar of 4 beats, like a kick drum bar, 1, 2, 3, 4. And within those 4 beats, there's 4 16th notes, and that's what makes the 16 steps. So then I was okay, no problem. Almost all of my machines are similar. Most of them have 64 steps, but 16 is fine. I can work with that. But what is this stuff, and how do I input stuff? So basically, I'm going to just create a bass line with just a bass on the 1, 2, 3, and 4, like a kick drum, just so we can get the idea. So I'm going to go clear, make sure there's nothing in here, and there isn't. I'm going to go into pitch mode and put in my 4 notes. And I'm kind of blasting through most of this stuff because there's so many videos talking about that. So I'm just going to put in 4 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. And actually, I'm going to turn the reverb off because I have reverb and delay on this because that's when it sounds the best, but let me turn it off. Okay, so I've got my 4 notes in there, and I want those to end up on the 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I have to now swing over to this time mode, and this is where you have 3 options. You've got a 16th note, which basically is note on. Think of it as note on. And then you've got a slide or a tie, they call it. Technically, musically, this is incorrect because a tie would need to tie 2 notes of the same pitch. So a C tied to a C or a D tied to a D. In this case, it's not really a tie, so it's kind of misnamed, but that's okay. It's think of it as an off, but with a sustain. So on, and then you're telling it, don't play a note, but sustain this note. I hope that's not too confusing. And this one is a complete rest, which means that it's note off and no sustain. So what do I mean by that? Well, the easiest thing to do now is to put that in. I'm going to quickly draw something here. Maybe a picture's worth 1,000 words in this situation. So if you think of the 16 steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. And that's the 1, the 2, the 3, and the 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're trying to make a bass line with notes on the 1, the 2, the 3, and the 4. So I need a note on here, a note on here, a note on here, and a note on here. And in between, for the first example, I'm going to use this tie. And then for the second example, we'll use the rest just to see the difference. So in here, I'm going to put the rest. And I'm using an open circle here, just so you get the idea of that's an open circle, and that's a closed circle, that's on, and that's off as well, but this has sustain. Okay, so this is what we're going to put in. Now, because there's nothing visual in the 303, or the TD3, you're going to have to kind of count it out. So we're going to say, okay, we want note on, and then 1, 2, 3 off, note on, 1, 2, 3 off, note on, 1, 2, 3 off, note on, 1, 2, 3, and now we're out because we've finished the 16 notes. And so this is all we did. Note on, 3 off, on, 3 off, etc. And if everything works out, we should just have a single note on the 1, 2, 3, and the 4. Perfect. And you can hear how the notes bomb, bomb, bomb. There's a sustain to it. So let's go back to the time and see how it works with the rest instead of the tie. So here's what the rest. So we're going to go on the 1, we want the note, and then 1, 2, 3 rests, note, 1, 2, 3 rests, note, 1, 2, 3 rests, note, 1, 2, 3 rests. And we're knocked out because we've done 16. Now let's play that. And immediately you can hear the difference. There's no sustains, just bop, 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 and that's it. So that's the difference between these two things, between these two symbols. And I've noticed that most people don't even use this one here, the complete rest. Most people are just kind of banging around with these two, and a lot of people just hit the 16th notes. But I just wanted to know what it was, because sometimes it might be useful to put in a complete rest, maybe at the end of the bar, so that the first tie doesn't, has an attack or whatever. There could be a reason to use it. Like I said, I'm kind of new to this machine, so I'm sort of figuring it out as I go. But that's the difference between these two things. And that's how you have to visualize the 16 steps. So what would happen then, I'm going to clear this pattern. What would happen if I put too few steps? For example, okay, so let's go to our pitch mode and put in those 4 notes again. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so I have my 4 notes. What if I come over to time and I only put in, I'm going to put in note on, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's 6, and then note on is 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Oh, and I've run out. So there's 16. And I only managed to put in 3 note ons. So what happens? Let's see. So you can see it cut out. The last note is dum, 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 and then back to the beginning. So that's what happens. If you don't put enough note on information, then the note gets cut out. That makes a lot of sense, I guess. What happens if we put too few note information? So let me clear this out, go to pitch mode, put in my 4 notes, and I'm going to go to time mode. I'm going to put note on, and then 3 rests, and then I'm going to come out and play and see what happens. Okay, so if you put too few, it plays the first note, and then it just runs through with nothing, and back to the beginning. Good to know. Anyways, I just experimented around with this kind of stuff just to sort of see what happens if you have too many notes or too few notes and so on. And I guess the sequencer just cuts them out if it has to, or, cuts them out, I suppose. So what else can we talk about this thing? Let me see here. Well, okay, so what if we don't want a note on the first beat? Well, that's pretty simple, I guess. I suppose if we put a rest on the first beat instead of a note on, then we should have nothing on the first beat. So let's do the opposite. Let's go no note, no note, no note, note. 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 Now this should sound kind of the same, except there shouldn't be anything right off the top. So when I push this, we shouldn't hear anything, and then at the end of that quarter note, we should hear something. Okay, so that makes sense. So it's not playing, not playing, not playing, playing, not playing, not playing. It's the opposite of what we did before. Okay, so that all makes sense. So now you know that you can at least put in notes that aren't always on the beat, because what I find is most people are programming it like they're going, okay, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or let's go into notes here. 1, 2, and then they come over here and they go, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all the way up to 16. And then they say, okay, what do I have? Right, and then they come over here and put in some slide information, and they get something cool, and it's great. And that's probably what made this machine famous, was that you could kind of do anything and mess around with the accents and the slides and come up with something. But anyways, I hope that helped somebody to understand, because I, for the life of me, couldn't figure out how this sequencer was working, and I think that kind of describes how it was working. So anyways, thanks for tuning in, and if you want to see any more videos, let me know down below.